Good evening and welcome to 365 Days of Amazing Stories with Theo Mayer. Here we are on day 48 and I'm continuing the story of the Yara. Now, we can remember that these men who'd gone out to get food for the village had basically not stayed very focused on their task. They were more into enjoying each other's company and frolicking with each other. They eventually were persuaded by one of them to go fishing instead of hunting. They could have dug up some roots and taken that back to eat from a pond that they had passed, but they went down to this river, and the one young man who had put a piece of raw meat onto his hook caught what all of them dreaded, which was the young one of the Yara. Now, all of them had heard about the Yara. None of them had seen the Yara. When they saw this young one, they knew it was a baby Yara. That one young man, determined to bring something back, put the Yara onto his back and began to run, and the other men with him. And as they began to run, they heard behind them a noise that had them all stop, turn, and look. Coming out of the water, out of the river, was the mother Yara. She was huge, huge. As big as a whale, bigger than a whale, but a creature that had, legs and fins, could breathe both above water and below water, long whiskers and teeth that could catch, and teeth behind those that could grind. Now it looked with astonishment as these men ran off with its baby. And when they turned, they could see that its eyes were flashing with both sadness, concern, and fury. They turned and continued to run. Why? Because the one carrying the baby Yara began running. Now, as they ran, a very bizarre thing happened. The water of the river began to rise. They were running along its banks, and all were somewhat surprised by what was taking place. The village camp was close to the river on a little high rise, and if you know anything about camping in the wilds, you know that you want to stay a little bit away from a body of water just because the humidity is too high and it's very often buggy, including ones that bite. So their village was a little bit on high ground, so to speak, close to the river, and they were running full bent as fast as they could towards this high area of land. The water they could see of the river was rising, and they all were astonished because no rain had come. What was going on, they knew not. Well, they got to the village and they threw the baby Yara down, and it squirmed around a little bit, and people were impressed by this, but all had already noticed, as people that live closely to nature do, the changes that had taken place already, the rising water. And all of them were a little bit mystified by this until they saw what had been placed in their midst. For all of them immediately knew what this creature was that had been laying at their feet. We'll stop the story there.